You know I try to be a good man, I always give it my best. But truth be told, someday I wanna go to the wild, wild west.
And now, live from our Smokehouse studio, it's time for Real Estate Jerky. All your real estate questions answered by a provocatively lean expert host, Ed Parcaut, MBA, veteran, and president of Lending for Living. And today's special expert guest, real estate advice you won't find anywhere else. Plenty to chew on, starting now.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here with my guest, Marlene Champlin, owner of Campbell and Associates. She is the creator and producer of this show. How you doing, Marlene?
Good, thanks, Ed.
We finally got her in front of the camera instead of behind the camera and on air, I should say, and in front of the mic. Our number one goal on Real Estate Jerky is to help you, our listeners, learn about home ownership and how you can take advantage of the simplest way to build personal wealth in America, which is, again, through home ownership. We're taking on a touchy subject today, particular to Californians, and that is cars, car buying, car insurance, and how these decisions affect your ability to purchase a home. So, Marlene, I know you're always behind the scenes person, but now we need you today because you're a major car person, right?
I love cars. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Is that why you decided to come and be in front of the mic instead of telling us what to do? Right, huh?
Well,
she always tells us what to do.
And you know what? All my family's going, yes, she does. No, I love cars, and I've lived other places, other states, been around a little bit, and there is definitely it's peculiar to California, and really peculiar to the Central Valley here. How much we love our cars. For me, it started when I was a little kid. And it's kind of a weird thing. My aunt and uncle, she was also my godmother. And in Portuguese culture, that's a big deal. And they couldn't have kids of their own. He bought at the year I was born, 1959, Studebaker Silverhawk. So I rode around in that car from tiny. I remember that car still to this day. And it was just cool. And it's kind of a funny thing because it's a Studebaker, but it was a very cool car even then. And then my mom widowed when we were little kids. And she had a 1958 Impala. So when I was hearing about our engineer today and see it out in the parking lot, Javi's got a 1960. Now the 58 was much more round, and Javi's got the big fenders, and it's a whole different look. But that thing, my mom widowed with 4 kids under 4. We were little. Oh, well, I'm sorry, I was 8, and the youngest was 4. And that thing was
little.
Yeah, we were little, and it was cool. And she would drive that thing. It was a boat. And there was this hill, railroad tracks. We lived out in the country, way out, and she would just fly over that thing. And the sound of it, too. It had a big old motor in it, and it was just... So, and I don't know, I can name off, all kinds of reasons. But here in California, here in the Central Valley, and I was down, this was in Tulare, so it's still a valley here. Modesto gets the fame because of George Lucas and American Graffiti. But it was a phenomena specific to this valley, and I believe it bled over, because there was I've talked to friends of mine that lived in L.A. and there was cruising some to a pretty big degree, but not like here, and I think it's part of why we are just car crazy here. I really think that.
Well, yeah. I remember growing up, and I think on last week's show was talking to the guys that do the graffiti weekend that's going on this weekend. I just remember my grandfather, T-Birds. He was big into it. We were fixing them up. That's what we drove. I even myself in high school drove a 62, and thank goodness because a lady ran into me and it put just a little dink in the bumper because that 62 all front end was bumper.
62 what?
T-Bird.
You drove a 62 T-Bird to school?
No, I drove a 69 Mustang, but then I also sometimes when that would get worked on, I would drive the 62 T-Bird that was in the front. Yeah.
You were a brat then. I had to drive a 57 Chevy old pickup. Now, before you think it was really well, wait, but this was the one that was parted out for the 55 that my stepdad was restoring. So this was the one, had a long bed, and he put calf racks on it, like racks so I could haul calves to the sale. In it, so I could go to.
It still was a way to drive to school, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then my other driver was because my mom remarried, so she was widowed, right? Had that 58 Impala that was like awesome, and then she remarries a guy who likes cars. My stepdad really is who really got me into how they work. I always loved them. Anything that ran, I'd drive tractors, everything on the ranch. I loved it. But my stepdad was the one that really taught me about differential ratios, rear ends, horsepower. He was into 55s, 57s, and all of his kids had to work on everything, plus on the dairy, right?
Right.
So
you didn't take anything in on the dairy; you fixed it yourself.
Exactly, exactly. We were that, and so, but it was cool. I mean, to this day, I love that I had that experience, and that. But yeah, so my other driver, so he had this, marries my mom. She's got this 58 Impala. He's driving some random, because he was a salesman at first before he got all these kids, and then they bought the dairy. But anyway, because he had all that free labor.
So, yeah, that's how that works. So that's why you have kids, right?
He bought a 72 Riviera. That was, they looked like the Frog. They had that V window in the back. And it had the big motor. It had 454 in it. And I thought, okay, that's cool. Well, then my mom gets pregnant. And so now we get a 74 Buick Estate wagon. So, but nobody wanted to drive it. Anyway, so why in California? And that's what we're talking about before we get into why the impact on our houses. And I think California, we have all these long highways. We have all these great places to drive. And really in California, if you got to drive, our transit system is non-existent. And
that's especially in the Central Valley.
Right. Yeah.
The transit system's not there.
And so we're car crazy. And you and I have discussed this a whole lot, which is part of the reason we're doing the show, is how that car craziness affects us when it comes time to buy a home.
Right.
And we're car crazy almost to our deficit. So
it's the car payment that affects people to buy a home.
So how many times does it happen to you where you get stonewalled out of a loan because of their car payments?
It happens a lot. Even I had one recently where I didn't realize they got in a car accident during the so they're buying a new home. So it's a 6-month process for this thing. During that period of time, she got in a car accident. So she got rid of the car, had no payment on, and went out and got a new car with a $700 a month payment. We didn't know about it because it's not on the credit report. We see the inquiry, when we refresh it because we're getting closer to time to close, and now it pops up, and now they don't afford the place. Luckily for them, she was getting child support and other stuff that she didn't tell us about in the beginning, so was able to wipe out that car payment. But for most people, you're done. It's over. You can't get around it.
So would you say like 50% of the time when there's a problem, it's probably because of a car?
I would say probably 25% of the time, because most people, they understand not to go do that, right? But some people still, even though you tell them, we send videos to them, don't go out and get a new car payment, don't get anything, and they still do, right? But I would say it's a lot less, but we try to make sure people know about it ahead of time. So we've got a few more seconds before we go to break. Anything else you want to add there real quick, Marlene?
Yeah. I mean, I've been there. I've been there. I've done it. And that's what I hope to acknowledge. We love cars.
Right.
We do. And there's no getting around that.
All right, let's pick that up when we get back. We'll be right back to answer any questions you have, especially for Marlene. Listeners, if you have any questions or comment, please dial pound 250, say the keyword Real Estate Jerky. Again, that's pound 250, say the key phrase Real Estate Jerky. Leave us your questions or comments, and we'll be right back. Sorry. You should have gave me a question. You did give me a question, but you haven't asked me any questions. Marlene.
I'm going to now.
I know, but that's the whole thing about.
I know.
So sometimes it's like, I don't read it until I'm ready to go out, like I did then.
Okay.
So.
Statistics a little bit, and then.
Where's that at? What section? Is it the first? Oh, the first page.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Second page, actually. All right. So you're talking about not the weather.
That's not really. It's not just talked about. Check out these California stats.
Right there. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll bring us back and say, Marlon, what do you want to talk about? Or.
So you can still use the intro to number 2.
We're good.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Let's just do that. Let's go right. Let's follow 2, and then when I come out of, we'll do this, and then I'll pull in. I won't pull the statistics in.
12 minutes.
Okay. So let's just follow number 2, and
so I'll just do the intro in.
Yeah.
And then I'll let you just.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the first car I bought on my own. Yeah.
And then after you do that.
You're a brat. 62 T-Bird.
What? My grandfather did T-Birds. I had to help. So he actually liked the 64 better.
Yeah.
My mom and dad liked the 62 better, and so they helped him put a bunch together. My dad worked out on the dairy when we came here back from where we were, and I worked on and so that car was being put together off of 2 other 62s.
Right.
And it was primered, and it was in our front yard, and it was one of those catch-all. Because what I did is I traded my stepdad my 69 Mustang for his mini truck, and I dropped it, cleaned it. It was a Ford Courier, an ugly ass truck, but I turned that thing into the most unique that I traded that truck for a 63 Chevy pickup, long bed, dropped that in the weeds, and it looked like it had sand rails.
Yeah.
But it was discs I found that you could pop on like hubcaps. Because I can't afford rims. So back then I worked full time, and my mom wouldn't give me $1 for gas to cruise.
Right on.
All right, we're ready. I'm sorry, what did you say it was? How long again?
12 minutes, sir.
Thank you.
Long-lasting Real Estate Jerky is back on Power Talk 1360 KFIV.
And we're back, and for those of you just turning in, I'm Ed Parcaut, mortgage advisor with Lending for Living, and your host, along with my very own crazy car girl, Marlene Champlin. We're talking about buying cars and the impact that can have on your purchasing a home, and also about our history of how we've had certain cars.
We're both car. The more I'm. I still think you're a brat. A 62 T-Bird, dang.
Most people don't even know what it is.
And a 69 Mustang.
Yeah, but it was the coupe Mustang. It wasn't the cool one.
Yeah, they were still cool. They were still very cool. I was just thinking about the first car I bought on my own. So I had to drive, like I was saying before, 57 Chevy, and then with the calf racks, because that did dual purpose to school. Not that it wasn't fun. I mean, it had its uses because nobody cared. I mean, we'd pile everybody in the bed of it when you still could do that, and drive and cruise around, and they could all hang on to the racks. And then we had the stupid estate wagon, but which had its own thing. We called that one the Quimby Economy Bus. But I bought my first car. What was the first you bought? It was a Mustang you bought?
No, that was my mom bought that for me when I was a kid. It was
what
for
did you buy on your own?
It was a '85 Jeep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I bought a 78 Trans Am.
Wow.
I was like, that's what you get for making me drive that. When we had all these great vehicles around because he raced sand drags. So we had a 55 Chevy pickup that he turned into a sand drag. I wanted to race in the worst way. I still remember when they started having fuel dragsters, and the first time I smelled fuel, like when they, that was it. I was hooked. Somehow I wanted to race, somehow, some way. So
did you? I
did eventually. Yeah, my brothers built a car for me. I have a brother who's even car crazier than he actually works on them. He now owns his retirement business is a off-road place up in Florence, Oregon, like for, quads and all that jazz. So he built me a race car, an enduro car, which is sort of like circle track stock car meets destruction derby on a dirt track. And it was pretty, it was a 70, and they were like claiming races. If you won, the car went away. So you didn't.
You mean if you lost?
No. If you won, it was a claiming race.
Oh.
And
for people who don't understand what a claiming race is, explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, well, you get a prize, and the claiming race, they get your car, and then they sell your car as part of because it's not highly sponsored kind of racing, and you do 500 laps, and it's just it was a crazy little phenomena they were doing back then. And my brother built a car, and I drove it, which I thought was kind of weird. Like, why aren't you driving it, or one of my other brothers? And they all agreed, because you are the craziest driver. You won't care. You'll just drive. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I enjoyed the heck out of that.
Did you win any?
I didn't. But
which was good, because you could keep your car.
Keeping the car running. Well, keeping the car running through the whole race was always a challenge. Right. Because always mechanical stuff. 500 laps is a long way, especially when you start off and you're all lined up. And there would just be once they opened it up to mixed women and men, because back then there was just still men or women, like they do powder puff.
Right.
But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to race against guys. So they opened up this enduro to both. And then there would be like 200 cars entered. So just you'd sit in line waiting to get on the track. Well, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And
my uncle and my dad used to do the destruction derbies and all that. Yeah.
I never did do a full-on derby. What's funny is one of the cars that we had when I was a kid, before my dad was killed, it was a Chrysler Imperial. And the demise of that car, we lived at the end of a really well-used street, but out in the country, and some drunk guy ran through the stoplight, and it was a dead end, and we lived at the dead end, and piled into that, and Chrysler about killed himself doing it sitting parked. But yeah, so imagine when I grow up and find out those things are like tanks.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing with the T-Bird. That thing was a tank. I mean, I talked about it the last show that someone actually ran into me in high school when I was driving through, and it totaled their car, and it put a little dink in the front of that bumper,
So you had an 85 Jeep was your first car. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's my thing. So first kiss in a car?
Don't remember.
What? What about in a car?
What about in a car?
Come on.
63 Chevy pickup, plenty of room. Bench seat.
See, that's what I'm talking about. And it was vinyl for sure.
No, it was cloth.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
This is what I did is I traded my 69 Mustang to my stepdad for his Courier pickup, which everybody thought was crazy because I was in Turlock and we had auto body and auto mechanics, the stuff they don't really have these days. And so I totally, took everything off that made it look like a truck and redid the whole thing. And then I worked at the time, I'm going to date myself, at Foster Farms in Turlock.
Oh, yeah.
And a guy came in, he wanted to buy my truck, and we traded for his 63 Chevy pickup long bed. And so then I did the same thing to that. And then that sat in front of my parents' house until when I went in the Navy, and then, of course, they sold it while I was gone. So, and, of course, they didn't go, here's your money.
Right? Man.
What are you going to do? So then when I was in the service, you really didn't need a vehicle.
No.
But I ended up buying a Jeep, and then, that's pretty much what I had for a while. So,
see, that's what I mean. We can run the cars down. This is a California thing. I'm telling you. I've talked because it's been a fascination of mine. So we get all crazy. So how do we grow up and stop living in a dump, driving a nice car, and go to living in something we own and driving a reliable car? How do we do that?
You have to grow up. And it's hard for a lot of people to grow up. And just don't get me wrong. It's like you don't have to stay there forever, but just get the house first, And one of the things I run into a lot is girlfriends buying cars for boyfriends.
What?
Yeah. where the boyfriend can't afford his own car, he has bad credit or this, and so they go with the girlfriend's credit, and then now she has that car on her credit, and that's $600, which could be $90,000 in a purchase price for a house.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You know what? I was reading some statistics, and it's nuts. The average car payment in California, the average car payment right now in the U.S. is $532 a month. $532.
Right. That's like $100. That's like a little over $100,000 in a mortgage. You can have a mortgage. I mean, not that you can find a place in Modesto for $150,000, but that's just an example.
Right. If you didn't have that payment, you could qualify for $100,000 more in a home.
I'd say 125, just to be general.
Wow.
Each situation is different depending on how the other debt they have. But I have a gentleman who. He didn't co-sign for his dad, but basically he got the loan for his, he got the loan and his dad's making the payments. Well, if you actually co-sign with somebody and you're on there and the co-signer's on the loan, once they make 12 payments, you can take that debt that's against you away from you so that you don't have to use it in your qualifying. However, if you're just on there and somebody else is making the payment, you're under a lot of times this is FHA where we have to you can't get rid of it. It's your car payment. You're still stuck with it. And I had a guy who hit $442 a month he pays for his dad's car. And again, it was like around $90,000. Again, it depends on interest rate and everything, but about $90,000 more he could afford if he didn't have that.
Wow. Well, car payment average in California is actually a little higher. It's almost $600 a month. And then there's insurance, right? On top of just the car payment. So, and most people, I mean, did you go check what the insurance rate was on the vehicle you bought when you bought that Jeep? I know you didn't.
No.
In 85, I promise you didn't because it was high, right? Insurance.
No, I was in San Diego. It was cheap. It was when I moved to here that insurance rates went up.
Right.
Because of our, the theft rate in the Central Valley is much greater than it is other places.
I was reading average car insurance per year, $1,800 in California, $1,800 a year per car.
Actually, the worst is when your son turns 16 and he wants a vehicle, and you have a 1990 Ford F-150 that is worth probably nothing, $2,500 to $3,000, and the insurance on that thing, liability is $22,000 plus a year.
A year. Mm.
Yeah. So, and that's why a lot of people who they don't realize, when they're going to buy a car for their kid at that age and go, I'm going to buy him a new car. It's like, really? You're going to pay full coverage of $4,000 to $5,000 a year? That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I can't wait till he leaves for the Army in a month.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can take him off the insurance and basically that'll save us almost, $1,800 a month. I mean, a year.
So this is what we're talking about. I mean, this is what it doesn't seem like it. Especially, we get kudos here in California for going with the car thing. Yeah, go get a car. You just said it. Parents thinking about buying their kid a new car, right? That's how parents think. Yeah, that's how we think around here. But you can't. What is the old saying? You can't have it all. You just can't have it all at once.
I guess. Is that the saying?
So how?
So we got about a minute.
All right. Well.
So
I want you to talk about that process. How can you do it so you can have a decent car and be able to talk about that? Show our listeners that it's just a not now. It's not forever.
Right. I think a lot of people live for today. They don't live just, we're not used to like we used to do, saving money to get to a point and use that money to buy things we want to put on credit. We want to do it now. And that was one of the shows we had about budgeting that we were talking about that. So let's pick that up when we come back, shall we? Mm-hmm. All right. We got to head out to a break. As a veteran myself, I think it's important to support members of our military. We always honor veteran business owners during the show. If you know a vet who could use some free advertising, please message us their name and number to pound 250. Say the hashtag. Again, pound 250. And the keyword is Real Estate Jerky, and we'll take it from there. Talk to you when we get back. Yeah.
My script is...
I'm all over the place now.
Well, that's because we're all over the place.
All right, so we were here...
I'm missing a page on my script. No wonder it seems skinny, this one.
Intro to 3, yeah, this is right.
A little kinder.
Because we've had people where, and I'll tell this one, where they get a car right before closing, and we tell them take it back. Because you have 3 days or 5 days in some places. Take it back. And then after records, go back there and pick it up and buy it. Car dealers have a different debt to income ratio than what we do.
How long does the recording process take?
I had one recorded this morning that we knew by 8:30 it was done.
Oh, so it's like within hours kind of deal.
Yeah.
Oh, except you got to change this intro because I didn't say the 2 phrases. But
What?
you know what?
What intro?
The intro into this 3rd segment.
It says we're back, and my guest Marlene Champlin, creator, producer, blah blah blah, car case ago. Before we went out
I
to
didn't
break,
say the
Marlene
2
did-
phrases.
All right, so I just won't say that part.
Yep. And I'm going to pick it up with Kelly Blue Book and Used Car.
All right, and don't forget you got that whole thing over
Scenarios
here.
coming.
That whole thing over here.
Where? What?
That first segment you didn't talk about the.
I did. I touched on it.
Average cost
I
of
did.
fuel statewide.
I did touched on it when you were talking about. We were talking about car payments.
Oh, you did. Okay.
I didn't do the gas and stuff, but we got
Okay,
insurance.
all right,
We're there.
I'm going over it.
We got the content. We're there.
How long?
12 minutes on this one.
Could you imagine doing like 3 a day?
Are these?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. No, that's why I do what I do. I was on the air for a little while.
No, I
News
understand.
from abroad. No, I do what I like because I like it.
And we're back. I'm Ed Parcaut, your co-host. Let's try that again. Try that again. I messed up. Try it again. Damn. I'm just trying to add that in instead of add a little extra here. Oh. Your host.
Real Estate Jerky is back on Power Talk 1360. Chew on that.
And we're back, and I'm your host, Ed Parcaut, and I'm here with my guest, Marlene Champlin, creator and producer of Real Estate Jerky, and she is the car-crazy California gal. So where do you want to go from here, Marlene?
All right,
I know you have
so-
a lot of stuff you want to talk about, because we can never keep you quiet any other time.
Okay, that's well.
Okay, I guess we can.
We can. We can make me speechless. Come on now. You managed it a few times. All right. So we're talking about cars, and I have 2 things that I want to share with our listeners just to get you going in a different direction when it comes to cars. Maybe you've done this, but it works for me. It works for my kids and a lot of friends. Kelly Blue Book and a used car dealer you can trust. So let's try on a scenario. So I've just told you 2 little phrases, Kelly Blue Book, KBB.com, and a used car dealer you can trust. So here's your scenario. And this is California. So you got to have a car to go to work. You look at all the commuters that live around here, right? So, and nobody gave you a car, right?
Nope.
So you figure out your budget first. Oh, boo-hoo. I get it. But listen, you call Ed, right? Call you. We sit down and decide what we can afford, what kind of house we can buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How much down? Just kind of go through the process just a little bit of buying a house and getting a pre-approval.
Right. So you're saying that's what you want me to do?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So basically, when we sit down with you, we go through your debts, we go through everything and see how much you can qualify, right? And we look at the debt to income ratio, which is for every dollar you bring in, how much of that goes towards the mortgage, and then how much of that goes towards your mortgage and debt. And we cap it at certain numbers. So it's really important not to have a very large car payment when we do these. So I tell a lot of people, get your house first and then get your car that you want. Right.
I know, but we're going to have a scenario because, life isn't perfect, right? And even with our best of intentions, what's happening? So we've got our pre-approval. Pretend we have it.
Right.
And everything's good. And I'm a commuter, let's say, and I'm driving the car that's paid for, that I'm planning on driving for the next 2 or 3 years. as we are doing this, we're out looking at houses, and I've got this pre-approval that Ed got me in my hip pocket, which is like walking around with the cash practically, right, Ed?
Correct.
Once you have your pre-approval, you're there, you're gold. And my car breaks down. So now what? Tell us what you don't do, Ed.
You don't go out and buy a new car.
Well, I got to go to work. I got to commute. What am I going to do?
Rent a car.
Rent a car. Really?
Well, what are you going to until your house closes?
Really?
Well, I don't know. What would you do?
That's what you're the pro. That's
Well, no,
what I'm
I mean, the problem you run into is did you have a car payment to begin with, or it was completely paid off?
No, it was paid for. That's the scenario. It was paid for. I was planning on it for 2 or 3 more years.
And here's what happens a lot of times. I don't know if I talked about it during the show, but I had somebody that was in contract. They were buying a new home. Same scenario. They actually got in a car accident. We didn't know this. And then they went out and bought a new car, which they thought no big deal because we must know about it. Well, once we run credit, we don't know anything that happens after that until we refresh to see if there's been any inquiries. And then once we see there have been some inquiries, then we ask about it and get that information. When you're waiting for your house to be built and everything, it takes 6 months. Some things can happen during that period of time, and that's what happened. We finally refreshed the credit because we're getting closer. And Lord, there's like 3 inquiries for a Ford and some other different places, and they ended up buying a vehicle with a $700 some a month payment, which kicked them out of qualifying for that house. Luckily for us, the wife had some other income that she didn't tell us about, child support and some other stuff that we could use. And so we were able to use that and offset that. So, but that's doesn't happen all the time where we have other income that just shows up.
Well, you were talking about so let's just say I'm panicked. You told me don't buy a car, but I've got to go to work. That's how I got my pre-approval, is from my job I commute to.
Correct.
So I go and buy a car anyway. What would you tell me to do?
Well, it depends how close you are to close.
Yeah.
Because if you're closing tomorrow and you went out yesterday and bought the car and we just found out about it, I would tell you to take it back. Take it back to the dealership, and then because you have 3 days, I think. I don't know. You're the car person.
3 days.
Take it back, and then once you close, go back and get it or buy it again.
Will I be able to get it?
Yeah, you should be able. The debt-to-income ratios that car dealerships, from what I understand, is different than the debt-to-income ratio we have to use for qualifying for home loans. Ours is going to be lower. Theirs are going to be higher.
Right, and that's
the difference.
Right, and it's an asset, as the home is an asset as opposed to.
Correct, and they might run your credit and not even know that you have a home loan.
Because of the time.
And I'm not saying not tell them, but I'm just saying that you never know, and they might. But you have to tell them where you're renting, where's this, that kind of, do you own a home? So you just let them know and see where you go from there. It's a unique situation, or have somebody else buy it. Have your sister buy it. Have somebody else buy it, and you make the payment to them.
So let's talk about those car payments. Again, we were bringing it up earlier, and
I'm not saying to lie about things. I'm just saying there's other ways to do about it.
But I mean, a $700. You were just mentioning it. A $700 and something car payment. What the heck was it?
I think it was some Ford.
Wow.
Probably a Ford Explorer. I mean, it's amazing how a $40,000 vehicle has a $600 a month payment.
Right.
Depends on how many years you did it, and most interest rates are pretty cheap these days. So it's.
So if we're in this scenario and pretend I bought a car and you told me to take it back. So now I go back, or would you sit me down and say, well, what are you thinking of?
Well, first
would you sit me down and say, hey, no, to the $700? Do you really need the $700 month car?
Well, you have to look at what do you want more. I mean, some people, their mortgage is $2,200 and now they have a $700 car payment. Don't get me wrong, I have clients who have $1,300 and $1,500 car payments.
I'm speechless.
That's the thing is that when you start getting into the more expensive cars, you lease an Audi, you lease this, they're expensive payments. They're not cheap.
Okay, well here's what we do in my world.
So you used to be in the car world, right? Yeah,
I did. Okay. All of them. Every new car dealers. Yeah. Oh, I totally get it. And the numbers and that's part of what bothered me was what they were doing with the 0% interest and raising the price of cars till they're as much as I think my pickup, comparable to replace it now, is as much as what I paid for my first house.
Right.
In fact, I'm sure of it. My first house was $71,000.
Yeah. Well, I know my parents' house they bought in the 80s is pretty much what my truck would have went brand new.
Yeah. Anyway. So it's hard to wrap my head around that. So I don't. So what I learned from being around the car business for so many years is get your budget, decide what it is, figure it out. I mentioned Kelley Blue Book, get on KBB, figureout.com, figure out what you can afford for that amount a month, or God forbid you should have that amount saved. Whatever.
Right. And I mean, we've had that people on before that were talking about save your money, pay off your debt, and then save the money and go pay cash for it. The problem with that is then you won't. If you had $30,000 in cash,
it doesn't matter.
You won't know. I mean, or $50,000. You go buy a car. You're like, I don't know if I need that car that much,
right?
Because I'm actually going to pay cash for it,
right? So I mentioned a used car dealer you can trust, and around here it's really easy. There's Robert's Auto Sales. They are amazing because they're not salespeople. I always laugh, Robert's Auto Sales, and you get there and there's not a salesperson to be seen anywhere. So the cool thing is if you figured out your budget, you figured out what you can afford, you figured out what you like, and you go there and you find cars because there's all the windshields, the numbers are on it.
Right.
I mean, it's super simple, and all you ever talk to anybody about initially is give them your license so they know you have a driver's license and insurance, and then you go drive the cars. And then, that's the hard part, I think, with people when they're buying cars. I think it's even worse than buying a house.
Well, I think a lot of people with cars, they want to have a new car. It's so important to them to have to be the first one to drive it. And it's like, why? It loses so much value the first year. As soon as you drive that off the lot, how much do you lose?
10 to 20,000 easy, like now.
And then
25 to 30% of the value.
And that's why for me, I like buying used. I mean, I bought my truck from where you just said
Roberts.
And then and people were shocked how much I paid for it, which how least I should say I paid for it. And that's what's important is when you're buying that second vehicle, that your vehicle, buy it used. I mean, we're talking 1 year old, at least returns and stuff. Amazing what you can get them for, and really cheap. I don't want to say cheap. It's very inexpensive. I was shocked.
Relatively speaking. Yeah. So that $700 a month Ford you mentioned earlier, if they would have bought it a year used, the payment might have been $400.
Right, or
$350, $400. Yeah, that's the part that I think our listeners, when you're in the position where you're going to buy a house, or you want to be in that position, you got to know your numbers. You always say that. I love that you say that. Numbers don't lie, people do.
Right. And
you got to know your numbers. That's Ed. You say that all the time, and it's the truth. You have to know your numbers. You have to know what you can, and like you just said, what's important, what's your priority.
Right.
And
it is. It's important to find out where that is. And I think a lot of people get their self-worth from what they drive instead of other things in their life. And I like a comfortable vehicle. I needed a truck for our, when we bought our cabin. And so that's why I bought the truck we did. Yeah,
it's a very nice truck, by the way.
I could have got away with probably a 150, but I wanted a 250 for towing just in case I needed to tow something. Because I destroyed the 150 we had that my son drives when I was towing up a bunch of firewood. Yeah, so I'm like, I need a little bit stronger pickup, but we can pick that up when we come back. Thank you for listening to Real Estate Jerky. We'll be right back after this break. Remember, you can listen to us in any of our shows after the fact on our podcast at iHeartMedia.com. You can also get it on iTunes, or you can just Google us and you'll find us. So talk to you when we get back. All right, this is it. I was like, this right here, this paragraph you have on, I was like, holy shit, what's going on there? Because I was on the last page going backwards, and I was like, oh, that's for her. And now, so are we going to get him to sponsor the show now?
Doug, sure.
Since you gave him all that free advertising.
I did. But they are truly
the cheapest.
They are. They're the only way to go.
I mean, we got a car for, which we don't mention his name because he's an ass, but Nico, to CarMax, and it was a good deal.
Wow.
But,
I was having a conversation earlier about cars ourselves, so I have to review the
focus
segment.
on us, dude. So tell me how much longer and all that stuff. It's going to be 10 minutes. With your 1 minute.
10 minutes minus your minute.
So 9?
Yeah, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Then plus the minute.
All right.
Go ahead and do that whole pre-approved for a home loan. Your car blows up in your commuter, and I just said no buying a car till this house is closed. So go ahead and do it.
I will.
And I'll just say, Ed, you suck.
Are you ready? No, you don't have to say that.
I'm going to.
That's just rude.
I get to be rude. I want to be rude.
Leaving the bull behind. It's Real Estate Jerky.
All right, we're back for our final segment of the show. I'm Ed Parcaut, mortgage advisor at Lending for Living, with my guest, Marlene Champlin from Campbell and Associates. She is the producer and creator of the show, and she's a bona fide auto enthusiast. All right, so let's get back to the scenario we painted for our listeners before we went to break. I've got you all pre-approved for a home loan, and your car has issues, and there's a problem maybe with the engine. There's something, you get in a car accident, something happens, and your car is totaled. And you're a commuter, and I just said no buying a car till this house has closed escrow.
Ed, you suck.
Yeah, whatever. That's just rude.
That's it.
You're off. Mike's gone.
I'm never getting back again.
Yeah. New producer.
No, I'm kidding. First-time home buyers, moving up people. It doesn't matter who you are. You wait, right?
You should, if you want. It depends on what's more important to you. Maybe you can find somebody you could borrow the car for a short period of time. It might be an old VW Bug that doesn't work real well, but it's something to get you to work.
And you said rent a car if you have to.
Whatever you need to do to get to work. I understand. Commute with somebody, you can get a share ride, Uber it, Lyft it, whatever. Depends how far away you are. I mean, share a car with the other person in your household if you can. I mean, the question is, what's your priority at that point? Do you want a house where you can build personal wealth, or do you need a car that will depreciate and not be worth anything in 5 years from now?
Oh, man.
Was that a statement? Did you get that?
I love that.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good. Because you can get the car after you get the house.
Correct. It's easier that way because, as I said before, the debt-to-income ratios that we have for mortgages are lower than you're going to have for a car dealership. I know they have them. I just don't know what they are because I don't do that kind of business.
Yeah. Well, the interest rates on the car loans have gone up actually recently, which seems
weird.
Weird. Yes, it does. To me, too.
Well, they probably did when the Fed was raising it, but from what I'm hearing, they're going to probably start lowering.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a whole nother. Do you even want to go
another show?
there? Do you want to go
Yeah.
there?
No, I mean, that's just basically what I see. So I see,
Yeah.
and I see actual long-term interest rates, which has to do with your mortgages keep going down. And I see house values going up. And there was an article I read a while back that said that Modesto, there was top 10 places in California that's going to increase over the next year,
yes.
10%.
Yes.
And Modesto was number 4 on that
Yes.
list, which I was actually shocked it was Modesto.
Yes.
Was number 4 with all the other areas on there. And that's not just, they were talking about the whole country because on
We
each one of
actually
the coasts.
posted that. That's on our Facebook. We posted
Did we?
that. Yeah, we did. It has I know. We were like, there were 2 West Coast cities in the top 10. The other one was?
Well, they were talking about that even though San Francisco's having an issue, but they're talking about that area, Sacramento areas.
Right.
They had, all the different Sacramento areas and San Diego, I think it was. You places you're hearing that are going down, but they think this year will go up still.
Right.
Because people still live there. But other places, which I thought would go up, which is Texas and Arizona, and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
It's the coast places still.
Right. Yeah. No. And so here we are. We keep telling, especially younger, I don't want to say, but the 20s, late 20s, 30s, 40s, buy a house. Buy a house.
Or buy a reasonable car payment. If you're going to have a car payment, make it a reasonable car. But I think I said it before, a lot of people get their self-worth from their cars, right?
Well, sure. We started the show off, and this is graffiti weekend. I mean, people are out there with 55s and 56 and 57s and, 79 and older is a classic now, right?
I don't.
Well, that's what at least out at Graffiti you can be in the parade or in the car show 79 and older.
So you can get an old 79 BMW and get it out there 320.
Are those the ones that look like a toaster, like a Sunbeam toaster? See, look at us. We go right back to cars. Because, I mean, I can't ever remember. So here's the deal. In California, I think to make it so that the house thing is more enticing instead of the cars, I think you have to tie a memory to a house. Because we can just go there like that with tying memories to a car.
It's like music.
It is like music. Boom. For us, it's just, you can do it. But in a house, can you?
Yeah, you can, because when I came back to Modesto in 2002, I bought my house where we live in now, and my wife. And then I got remarried and we moved into her house. But during that period of, I don't want to say courtship, but basically the kids and they all made memories at that house, which I'll say was my house at the time, but it's our house now. And after a few years ago, they were like, "We're done. We want to move back to the other house because it's single story. They had memories there, and it was all good." So, yes, you can make really good memories in a house, and it could be the house for you. You just need to get into your house to make those memories.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So tell me one. Do you mind? Would you?
No, it's just. Well, I don't know if my wife wants me to, but. When you're dating, you like my wife would come over and you might stay the night at that person's house for a couple of nights. There was always, tonight she'd stay over, and then I knew by the third night she'd be going home. It was like her routine, the kid, and I had extra bedrooms, so the kids would come over and stay in their room, and so they would make those memories while they're there. And of course, they'd do whatever they wanted. I could, it's a new relationship, so. They have those great memories, and then basically, reality sets in at the new house.
I know,
because we had to move into her house because she had extra bedrooms.
Right.
I only had 3 bedrooms. She had 4 bedrooms, and we had 5 kids at the time.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to shove those into 2 bedrooms, but you can shove them into 3.
Yeah, it's like the house I'm in now, because my grandkids live there with me. I agree with you, and I was just thinking about one memory in particular. The first house I had with all 3 kids at an age where there could be trouble. The boys were teenagers, and the house that house was across from a schoolyard. So the back fence was like the park, and the principal called me one day from that school to tell me that he saw my teenage sons and their friends jumping from the roof of my house into the swimming pool in my backyard.
Hopefully it was a deep end.
Well, that was the only way I knew about it. Of course, my kids, I brought this up the other day to one of my sons, and he said, all kids do that.
Only if there's a swimming pool. Yeah. I mean, that was one thing about, our other house. There was great memories made there because, big Christmases, the first, you spread out the packages so it looks like there's 3 times the amount of packages there normally is. They come running down, kids, and you have those memories. We had swimming pool. We have those memories when Blake was, just learning to swim at 5 and 6, and he would be standing on the edge yelling 1, 2, 3, 4 cannonball and jump in, but he sounded like canny ball because he couldn't say cannonball. So you have a lot of memories at the other, but there were some made in the at the current house, and that's where it was just amazing because I wanted to move back there because it was single story. I hate stairs. You have a master bedroom upstairs, and you leave something in there and you don't want to go back up. They're like, "Have I a kid around here to run back up there for me?" And now we're getting down to the last 2. Yeah, now we're getting down to the last 2, so we need to get it in another place because I don't want to have to run upstairs. And I remember the first time I moved into that house, I fell down the stairs the first weekend. Yeah, because you get up. That's when we had our daughter with special needs living there, and I decided to have to get up early and take care. And then you're just tired at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. You're getting, and I just forgot. there's stairs. You slip. Luckily, there was a landing, so I hit every step and then to the landing. And and it was funny because the funny part was when I turned around, you see it was like the commercials. Those cartoons where all the animals stick their heads out. And that's what the kids, all their heads were popping out. Yeah,
because they heard you go down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean. 200 and some pounds pounding down the floor, people here on the stairs. So we got about a minute left there, Marlene.
Yeah, so there is that. We can establish those memories and attach it to a house and not just be all about the car.
Well, the one thing about attaching those memories, you're building personal wealth. through home ownership. You're not building anything in a car. Now, classic cars is a totally different scenario. You work on it, you build them up, and eventually they go up in value, but you could still spend way more on them than they're worth, right?
Javi.
Yeah.
Javi with his
He's shaking his head in there going, oh my God.
Impala. It's a badass car, though.
Yeah. Thanks, Grandpa, for putting me in debt and I can't afford a house. Right? He's laughing in there.
He's got a 327 Corvette engine and the differential in there.
Wow.
Screamer. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah. So if you do the right things now, then you can still have all that later, right?
I think so. And I really appreciate you coming on today and talking about all this. Yes.
Was it fun?
It was very fun.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.